Missouri is one of the states with the lowest literacy rates in the United States, and unfortunately, this problem has only worsened with the pandemic. Libraries have closed down. As for schools, one of the primary ways through which we can maintain higher literacy standards, the results are almost as if they are closed down. Due to the virtual format, a lot of students dropped out in my school district, and that obviously contributes to a lower literacy rate. To me, libraries have held a special place in my heart, since the first book I ever read in English was at a library. Okay, so I would say that we get the state, or the community, sort of defined right away. It's the state community. They don't say that explicitly. They don't say, like, the community that I've invested in is the community of Missouri. But we get, an identification of a group and then an identification of a problem right away. Lowest literacy rates in the U.S. I'd say the other possible community that we're talking about here is their school district, right? In my school district, to me, libraries have held a special place. Great. And then we have libraries as well. So there's a few possible communities. We could be talking about the state, we could be talking about libraries, we could be talking about their school district. Let's see where it goes. Using a library model, I decided to take up the now empty role that libraries played in our community. Okay, cool. So that's kind of how they're acting, a library model. Don't really know what that means yet, but they're doing it in our community, so we'll see kind of if they further define what that means. What does community mean in this context? I started off by rebuilding my school's book club, encouraging book donations. I managed to partner with a closed local library to offer several programs like fiction and archaeology fairs for younger kids. Using the library in our club's budget, we would buy books and manage a smaller, little community library right outside of the school. Due to the unstable political climates at the beginning of the year, we picked up books to reflect social themes to encourage discussion. For example, in April, we picked a book about a young woman struggling to define what feminism looks like for her. We picked this particular piece of fiction because it mirrored the constituency of our high school, and because it makes these topics that seem so complicated accessible and bolsters participation. Okay, cool. So what I think we see most in this paragraph is their intervention. We're answering that question of a better place. They are encouraging book donations, generally running this initiative whose goal is to increase literacy through participation in reading, and to kind of fill this gap that's being left by libraries being closed during the pandemic. So I really like this. I mean, we get a very direct idea of how they've made a difference in their community. One thing I'm noticing is that I still don't quite have like an exact idea of what that community is, but I have a pretty good idea. It might be the state community. I'm getting a sense that it's more of like the local community that surrounds their school, because that seems to be sort of the sphere of action that they're working in. So even though they don't say explicitly, right, the community I'm working in is X, we still get that sense, and that's good. That checks the box. So you want to do that in your essay. Last paragraph. This year, we are planning on keeping this trend of social themes and inviting speakers to create discussions in each subject. As the pandemic slowly dies down, the book club will continue its engagement with the local library and will be partnering with the school to establish a book buddy program around local elementary schools and around the Cantor County library branches. Okay, so cool. You know, this is a pretty straight up essay, right? And like you might be used to, if you're coming from working on your common application essay, you might be used to these essays with like deep themes and like they're really long and they wind around and they eventually come back to a conclusion. But UCs are extremely streamlined. They have a simple prompt with a couple parts. All you need to do is talk about something you've done a lot of the time and show why it's meaningful to you, but it doesn't need to be that thematic. And in fact, it's recommended that it isn't. So this is a pretty good example of that. I would say this writer is just identifying a problem, talking about their action, talking about how they've continued their action to improve their community, which has a few different definitions, but in the end here, right, we see that it's, Cantor County library branches. It's, partnering with the school to establish a book buddy program around local elementary schools. So they're working on a local level to increase literacy and address that problem. So pretty good answer. And it sounds like they've done something really meaningful here.